First weeks back from vacation can be a bit rough. I've heard it described as re-entry, like an airplane roughly landing and getting to the ground. Work was really full this week with catching up, and my sleep schedule was off because we had been in a different time zone for our trip. So that made it a little bit harder for me to wake up and get going on my art, but I did still fit in some art this week. And today I'll show you the little painting I got done and all the work that I got done on my art brand and my Etsy shop this week. As I mentioned in my last video, I'm still testing hot press watercolor paper using the little sketchbook I made for my trip. If you want to see how I made my sketchbook, definitely be sure to check out the last video. I set my timer for 15 minutes and then spent a little bit more time than that also working on the painting of this portrait. I didn't quite get it to finished and totally polished up, but I do think I'm done with it. I think my goal is going to be to try to fit in more 15 to 30 minute watercolor paintings in this sketchbook and not really work hard to do fully detailed final product finished paintings in here, because I'm really just trying to test this watercolor paper, and I'd rather spend more time working in large format on more final pieces when and if I decide I'm going to use hot press paper in those scenarios. So far, I am obsessed with how much easier it is to get really great pencil drawings down on my watercolor paper when I'm using hot press paper, but I haven't yet figured out how to get my watercolor paintings coming out as rich or with as much depth, and so I'm still working on that, and I'll keep experimenting throughout the upcoming weeks. I got all of the professional photos back of my art pieces that I took a few weeks ago and mentioned in this past video. I'm amazed at the difference that the professional photographers' photos make to my pieces, especially compared to the photos that I was taking of them. For example, here's the photo I took of my Highland cow that I drew in charcoal, and here's the professional photographer's photo. My professional artist friends who had recommended this photographer have told me that they've had prints made from photos that he has taken of their work, and when the print is sitting side by side with the original, they can't tell the difference visually. So I'm really excited to start getting some of these pieces printed and see that for myself. So now my goal is to get all of these pieces listed in my Etsy print shop. After spending so much of my career as a brand strategist, I've been really wrestling with how I want my art branding to look. My art now has evolved into a more distinct style naturally, but whenever I need graphics, like for social media or Etsy headers, or I need mockup photos, I've felt like my graphic design direction has been a bit unclear. To most people, this wouldn't be a big deal, but at least for me, it felt important to give my art a more professional and cohesive container visually to grow into. I thought it would be interesting for you to see an example of what I did to clarify my brand's visual design direction and what considerations went into making those decisions. Over the past few weeks, I've been gathering some graphic design inspiration in Pinterest to just start seeing what design direction and colors are calling to me the most. This is a similar process to what I've used with my branding clients and students over the years, so some of you who have been with me for a while may recognize this part of the process. Then I spent some time this week sifting through the folder of design I liked to create this favorites section of everything I liked the most. This step helps me further clarify what styles and colors were standing out to me the most. I saw that I'm leaning both towards this kind of script style as well as this serif style of typography. I know that I need my brand to be able to represent both my fine art prints and originals as well as my children's books that I'm illustrating and writing. So I decided to start playing with both the script and serif styles to see what I liked the most. After exploring a lot of font options for my name, I just couldn't find anything that I loved or felt like represented me very well. As a side note, it's largely because I am so picky about how a Q is shaped and how they look in fonts. Even as a kid, when I learned how to do cursive writing, I was so annoyed and frustrated with the teacher that the Q in uppercase cursive looks like the number 2. So I refused to sign my name with a capital Q for the longest time until my teacher finally relented and let me start doing a Q in the way that I wanted to do it. In the end, I felt like if I was going to have a script version of my name representing my art and my work, then it should probably be in my own handwriting and be my signature. So I spent some time writing my signature out a lot of times to give myself a lot of options. I then photographed the signatures and brought them into Procreate on my iPad, where I created digital versions of them by tracing over the top of them. However, the more I tested those signature versions of my name in places like my website header, the less I liked it. I really like my signature, but I also know that it isn't very legible at all either. So someone who didn't know me out of anywhere and who saw it wouldn't necessarily think of my name or think of me when they saw it, and they probably wouldn't even be able to read it. So since I'm wanting to build up some brand recognition for my name, and I wanted to play off the fact that my first name, Quinn, isn't a very popular first name, especially for women, so I decided to play a little bit more with the serif typography direction instead. I love the idea of maybe someday being able to print my logo or my name onto ribbon that I could then tie around my pieces or use in other ways of my brand as well, and that would be a lot harder to do with the script version of my name. This is what I ended up landing on after playing with a lot of serif fonts and styles. I found a font that could get me 60 to 70% there as far as shapes and styles go, and then I altered some aspects of the font and letters to make it more uniquely my own. I really like how it came together. I think it looks more professional, but it still has this touch of magic and whimsy to it, which is what I'm after. I'll still use my script signature in other ways, but I'll primarily be using this serif version as my logo. I'll show you next some of the ways that I brought this logo into my branding this week. So I was so excited to start getting some of my newly photographed pieces up in my Etsy shop this week. I started working with my Highland Cow charcoal, doing a bit of editing to clean up edges and make sure it fits every print size I offer perfectly. I then took what I worked on with my art business branding and brought that into my product mockups and added my new logo to the image. I felt like this really elevates my products from looking like just cute random prints to collector's items from a legit professional artist. Then as I was thinking about the people who might want to buy my prints, I was reminded about one of the parts that I hate about buying prints is that I'll get excited about that art print and then I'll get really overwhelmed trying to think through what frame I would put it in and trying to think through how I'll now have to hunt down and find a perfect frame for it. Whenever I've bought some prints in the past, I've often brought them home only to find out that it's a really difficult size of print to find a good frame for, and have even had to commission custom frames for some of those prints, which is really expensive and kind of annoying. And so with all of that experience in the past, this decision often paralyzes me and keeps me from buying art prints. So I got the idea to create a frames guide for each of my art pieces. This is where I've pulled in some really nice looking art frames from Amazon for each of the print sizes that I offer, and then I have the piece mocked into them so you can see what it would look like in the frame. Then if you like a certain frame, you can just click on the link below and it opens up the frame in Amazon where you can see the pricing and decide whether or not to purchase. I'm including free access to these frame guides in my product descriptions moving forward. Also, as you can see for this little intro letter, I designed it so you have the logo on the page, but my signature shows up at the end of the letter. I then went in and added my logo to the product images for my other newer piece for sale on Etsy, this underwater girl from my The World is Full of Stories zine. I then used my Highland Cow frames guide as a template with all the same frames and created a free frames guide for this piece as well. I also took my new logo and styling and refreshed my store header and profile image. I also refreshed my YouTube channel header. It feels really, really, really good to have my brand looking a lot more like me and looking more buttoned up and professional. I'm so happy to have gotten it all to come together this week, and I'm really excited and feeling a lot of momentum about how this is pushing me forward and helping me grow my art business to the next level. All in all, it was a really full week, but I'm excited about what I got done, and I'm really eager to keep working on everything this coming week. What did you create this week? Are you working on any fun projects or dreaming up any fun projects? I would love, 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 love to hear about it in the comments. Until next time, I'm cheering you on to lean into wherever your creativity takes you, and especially bringing more creative magic into your everyday life.